I'm Jerry Willis, and you're in the strategy room. White House hopeful Marco Rubio had momentum on the campaign trail coming off a strong finish in the Iowa caucus. But after what critics are calling a stumble in Saturday night's Republican debate, GOP rivals are seizing the opportunity to attack the Florida senator and try to sway support in the granite state. What impact will this have on Tuesday's New Hampshire primary vote? Here to weigh in is Jeanne Zaino, professor of political science and international studies at Iona College, and Republican strategist Pidot. Welcome to you both. It's great to have you both here. I want to start with Marco Rubio. Let's take a look at Rubio from Saturday's debate.
But I would add this, let's dispel with this fiction that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing. He is trying to change this country. He wants America to become more like the rest of the world. We don't want to be like the rest of the world.
That's what Washington, D.C. does. The drive-by shot at the beginning with incorrect and incomplete information, and then the memorized 25-second speech that is exactly what his advisors gave him.
So, Flip, to you, was this a serious setback for Rubio?
It stopped his momentum in its tracks, I think. We'll have to see how much in these last couple of days it actually might reverse that going into New Hampshire. I think he really had a head of steam coming out of Iowa, and maybe not enough to capture the top spot away from Donald, but at least to outperform again versus his polling. He really would have been able to say, you know, 2 contests in a row that he was consolidating that establishment lane. Now, thanks to this slip-up, gaffe, whatever you want to call it, it was major. It was the big takeaway from the debate. How much that translates into lost New Hampshire votes, we'll have to see. But the other thing is, too, this now becomes part of the narrative. What was a strength for Rubio, his message discipline in debates, now every time he says something that someone's heard before, it's going to, that, you know, Marco Roboto, you know, line will come back, and people will say, oh, he's just regurgitating the next module. This is the immigration module. This is the tax module. This is the Obama module. So it hampers him a little bit on the
Let's turn to the governors of the race, Christie, Kasich, and Bush. They've all taken aim at Rubio. Is this a good strategy, Jeanne?
It is a winning strategy for them. It is an important strategy. They had no choice. Now, I don't think Chris Christie is so far back now, and he's put all his eggs in New Hampshire. I don't know if it's going to help him as much as it hurt Rubio. You know, I think John Kasich is well positioned to do fairly well in New Hampshire, you know, maybe coming 4th or 3rd, and Jeb Bush seems to be struggling, although I would say Kasich and Bush had their best debate so far. But just back for a second to the Rubio thing. Playing devil's advocate for a minute, I think a lot of this is media hype. Look, on Monday night, we talked about, and I am as guilty as anybody else, about Marco Rubio as this, you know, had done this amazing job. He was going to be the savior of the establishment, went to New Hampshire with so much momentum. And days later, he is now, you know, all but dead in the race. You know, I think that Flip is right. Long term, this does hurt him because it's a narrative he has to address, this empty suit, robotic, he's, you know, just repeating lines. But, you know, repetition is not so bad. Voters aren't paying as much attention to these things as we are. So hearing something over again, particularly an argument that resonates with primary voters in the GOP, they do not like Obama. He's saying why over and over again, and his crowds the next morning were huge. So I think some of this is a little bit overstated. Do I think he's going to win New Hampshire? No. But I'm not so sure it's going to stop him dead in his tracks. He's going to have to do fairly well, but he still has a lot of momentum going into South Carolina.
Well, let's turn to polls, because that's what every election is about, right? Let's look at the latest Real Clear Politics poll for New Hampshire. Trump leading at 31.6, Rubio at 14.6, Cruz at 13.0, Kasich at 12.4. It seems like the governors are really competing for a 3rd-place finish here, Flip.
They are, and maybe if a little bit of the wind comes out of Rubio's sails, it pads the governor's numbers a little bit. They're kind of also fighting for that establishment block vote, so it maybe gives them an opportunity to hang on possibly into Super Tuesday a little longer than they might have otherwise. But you know, I think it really comes down to now, can Rubio eke out a number 2 finish in New Hampshire? Like you said, Jeanne, this may be really overblown in terms of the voter impact. If he comes away with a number 2 finish, then maybe he puts all this behind him, says, look, I really am strong, I've got a great ground game, this you know, debate inside baseball people don't really care about. On the other hand, if he winds up 3rd, underperforming his polling, then maybe it reinforces the narrative, and people say, yep, look, he didn't really have the goods, he's a one-term senator, is a flash in the pan, we can write him off and let the governors fight it out.
Jeanne, last word.
Yeah, you know, and I think interesting about that polling is you add up those establishment figures, quote unquote, and they are beating Donald Trump. So I think if they are able to coalesce some voters together under this mantra of electability, they could have momentum. But I agree with Flip. What we're really looking at here is second and third place finishes to see who has the momentum to go on.
It's great stuff, guys. Thanks so much, Jeanne and Flip. You can check out foxnews.com for more on the 2016 presidential race. I'm Jerry Willis. Thanks for watching.